Welcome to another deep dive, everybody. And today we're diving into pregnancy health, specifically focusing on two conditions that I think we all know are pretty scary for expectant parents: fetal growth restriction, FGR, as it's often called, and preeclampsia.
Yeah, these are really tough complications that can come up during pregnancy.
Yep.
And one of the challenges with these is that the tools we currently have to diagnose them, well, they're not perfect. We can't always catch them super early, and even when we do, sometimes they're not as accurate as we'd like.
And that's what makes this new research coming out of Russia so interesting, at least to me. They're really trying to break new ground in the field by looking at things in a whole new way. They're digging into this thing called metabolomics, which basically means trying to understand the language of these tiny molecules in our bodies to see if they can tell us about problems even earlier than traditional methods.
Yeah, it's like listening in on what our cells are saying to each other, way before any obvious warning signs pop up on our radar.
Exactly. So this study, it just came out last month, and it's all about finding these, I guess you'd call them molecular clues. They're called biomarkers in the blood of pregnant women that could give us a heads up about potential issues, especially when it comes to those two conditions we talked about, FGR and preeclampsia.
And the really cool thing about their approach, at least I think so, is that they're really focusing on two specific types of molecules: amino acids and polyamines.
Okay, so amino acids, we hear about those all the time, right? Those are like the superstars, the
Yeah.
building blocks of protein, totally vital for, well, everything our bodies do. But polyamines, I gotta be honest, that's a new one for me. What are those all about?
Yeah, they definitely don't get as much airtime as amino acids, but they're like the little worker bees of our cells. They're
Mhm.
super important for growth and just keeping things running smoothly at a cellular level. And what these researchers found is that when they looked at women who ended up developing FGR and preeclampsia, the levels of certain amino acids and polyamines in their blood were totally different compared to women who had healthy pregnancies.
So basically, even early on, their blood was telling a very different story.
Precisely. In the women who developed complications during their pregnancies, the researchers found that they had way lower levels of some key amino acids. We're talking alanine, ornithine, proline, aspartic acid, all significantly lower.
Interesting. So it's not just about having enough amino acids in general, it's about having the right balance of all of them.
Exactly. It's like a delicate recipe. You need all the ingredients in the right proportions for things to turn out right. And when it comes to FGR, they found that two particular amino acids, arginine and lysine, were especially low in the women who went on to develop the condition.
And why is that such a big deal?
Well, arginine and lysine, they're absolutely crucial for a baby to build proteins and grow at a healthy rate. So it kind of makes sense, right? If those levels are low, it could explain why some babies aren't growing as expected.
So if doctors could spot those lower levels really early on, maybe they could do something about it, right? Maybe even prevent some of these growth restrictions from happening in the first place.
That's the hope. Now, there's another amino acid they looked at, proline, and it plays a really interesting role too.
Okay, what's so special about proline?
Well, it's a critical component of collagen.
Oh, right. Collagen, like what they make those beauty creams with.
That's the one. It's great for our skin and joints, but it's also vital for a healthy placenta.
Ah, the placenta, of course.
Yes,
That's the lifeline between a mom and her baby, right?
exactly. So if a woman has lower proline levels, it could mean that her placenta isn't as healthy as it should be,
Yeah.
which could then restrict the flow of important nutrients to the baby.
And that could lead to FGR.
You got it. It's like a chain reaction happening at a molecular level.
Wow, that's incredible. So we've got the amino acids. They seem to paint a pretty clear picture. But what about those mysterious polyamines we talked about earlier? What kind of secrets did they reveal?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting. The researchers found a whole bunch of alterations in specific polyamines: spermidine, putrescine, cadaverine.
Hold on, cadaverine, like as in something you'd find in a well, you know?
It's not quite as creepy as it sounds, I promise. It's just a molecule, totally naturally occurring, and it plays a part in various cell processes. But you're right to focus on it because this study, along with some of the researchers' earlier work, found that the levels of a specific polyamine called, get ready, 1-methyl-7-dinoheptane, were way different in the women who had pregnancy complications.
Okay, so this 1-7-diminoheptane, that's a mouthful. Could this be the key to early detection?
It's definitely looking like a promising lead, especially for FGR. They found that the levels of this polyamine were through the roof in the women who ended up developing the condition. And what's really exciting is that this isn't just a one-off finding. Remember that earlier study I mentioned, the one looking at polyamines in urine? Well, they found a similar link.
So two separate studies, both zeroing in on this one polyamine as a potential red flag. That's pretty convincing.
It certainly is. And the best part is, testing for these biomarkers is as easy as taking a blood sample. No invasive procedures, no waiting around for symptoms to show up.
This could be a total game changer for how we approach prenatal care. Imagine being able to spot these potential problems before they even have a chance to impact a baby's growth.
Exactly. And what's even cooler is that this is just scratching the surface of what metabolomics might be able to do.
Okay, scratching the surface, you say. So there's a whole lot more to this metabolomics thing than just these particular amino acids and polyamines.
Oh, absolutely. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Think of it this way. Our bodies are like these incredibly complex cities, right? With tons of stuff happening every second of every day. You've got traffic flowing, energy being used, communication networks buzzing. Metabolomics is like analyzing all of that, all those tiny details that keep the city running smoothly.
So by looking at those small details, those metabolites, we can get a much better understanding of not just what's happening in the body, but why it's happening.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so revolutionary for understanding pregnancy.
Mhm.
It's not just about seeing that, oh, this baby isn't growing as fast as we'd expect. It's about potentially figuring out the exact metabolic pathways that are going off track, what's causing the problem at a fundamental level.
And if you could figure that out, then you could open up a whole new world of treatment options, right? It wouldn't just be about reacting to a problem after it pops up. You could actually prevent it from happening in the first place.
Now you're getting it. That's the ultimate goal. So for example, let's say we have a pregnant woman and her proline levels are looking a little low early on. We know proline is tied to placental health. So maybe we talk about dietary changes she can make to boost her proline intake or explore other ways to support healthy placental function right from the start.
That's incredible. So it's not just about developing new drugs or fancy therapies. It's about giving women and their doctors more personalized information so they can make proactive decisions about their pregnancies.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to something as important as pregnancy.
You know, this whole conversation reminds me of something I stumbled across while I was doing research for this deep dive. I was reading about another study, a scoping review, and it was talking about bee pollen.
Bee pollen. Now that's interesting. How does that fit in with everything we've been talking about?
Well, it got me thinking about the gut microbiome, all those trillions of bacteria that live in our gut. We're learning more and more about how important they are for our overall health, and apparently they play a pretty big role in pregnancy, too.
Right. There's more and more evidence suggesting that the gut microbiome can really impact how a pregnancy progresses.
And since we were just talking about amino acids and how crucial they are for a baby's development, it got me wondering, what if having a healthy gut, which helps us absorb those amino acids more efficiently, could actually play a part in preventing complications like FGR?
That's a really interesting connection.
Yeah.
Because you're right, if the gut microbiome isn't functioning the way it should, it can disrupt how well the body absorbs nutrients, including those all-important amino acids. It's like having all the right building blocks, but the delivery system is a little wonky.
And that's where the bee pollen comes in. I've always thought of it as this superfood, but I had no idea it could potentially affect the gut microbiome.
Yeah, bee pollen is packed with all kinds of beneficial compounds, and there's some early research suggesting that it might act as a prebiotic.
A prebiotic, what exactly does that mean?
It means that it can actually stimulate the growth of those good bacteria in the gut.
Oh, I see. So it's like giving those good bacteria a boost.
Exactly.
So healthier gut, better nutrient absorption, and potentially fewer pregnancy complications. That makes a lot of sense.
It's a fascinating area for future research, that's for sure. Imagine if something as simple and natural as adding a little bee pollen to your diet could help support a healthier pregnancy.
Okay, now that's an idea I can get behind. But of course, as always, it's important to talk to your doctor before adding any new supplements to your routine, especially during pregnancy.
Absolutely. Always a good idea to check with your doctor first, but I think it really highlights how interconnected everything is. Our gut health, our metabolism, even the tiniest molecules in our bodies, it all plays a role.
It's like that saying, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Exactly. And when it comes to pregnancy, figuring out how all these different pieces fit together could be the key to unlocking healthier pregnancies for women everywhere.
It's amazing to think about all this stuff happening at such a tiny scale, all these molecules and microbes that we don't even realize are there, but they're driving everything.
It really is. It shows how interconnected our bodies are. Like,
Mm.
even the smallest imbalance can have huge effects. And it's not just the physical stuff either. This research got me thinking about the mental and emotional side of pregnancy, too.
Oh, for sure. It's not just about your body going through changes. It's a roller coaster for your mind and emotions, too. Stress, anxiety, hormones going haywire, it can all take a toll.
Absolutely. And just like those imbalanced amino acids can impact a baby's growth, chronic stress can disrupt a whole bunch of other systems in the body. It's all connected.
That's true. But what can you really do about it? You can't just tell those pregnancy hormones to take a chill pill, right?
Well, you can't just make stress disappear, that's for sure, but you can definitely change how you react to it. Finding those healthy coping mechanisms, that's what's key. Whether it's exercise, meditation, maybe journaling, spending time in nature, even just having a good laugh with your friends.
It's those little moments of self-care that can make all the difference.
They really can. And don't forget about the power of just connecting with people. Having a supportive partner, family, friends, people you can lean on. It can make all those emotional ups and downs a little bit easier to handle.
Takes a village, right?
It really does.
Right.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of pregnancy health, just remember, it's about way more than just the physical stuff. It's about taking care of your mental and emotional well-being too. It's about
Nourishing your whole self.
exactly. And for everyone listening, remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand about your body and how all these different factors can impact your pregnancy, the better equipped you'll be to advocate for yourself and for your little one.
So keep those questions coming. Stay curious. And never underestimate the incredible power of your own body. Until next time, everyone, happy diving.